Yeah. Okay, tell me what we did to treat the wound. What kind of wound do we have?
The bone was poking out of her arm, and so I wrapped that with gauze.
Okay.
And
So the bone's sticking out of the skin?
yes.
And we have bleeding.
Yeah.
Okay, so we stopped the bleeding with the gauze?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. What else are we going to do with the arm?
We needed to put it in a sling, but we didn't think about that much. Just the she
Okay.
told us that was probably.
So we're going to tell her to hold it in place like that until we can get a sling in place?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good call. What else do we do?
What was your thought process behind the AED?
In case she passes out and then loses her heartbeat, we're gonna need to shock her.
Better to have it, not need, than need it, not have. Okay, I'm good with that.
Okay, you thought through with it.
Okay, so tell me this, if somebody's in a situation like that and see how she's almost going to fall out of that chair already? What would be a good idea to do?
Move her to
Scoot her
somewhere that's
over.
like.
If possible, let's move her where she can't fall. Stabilize her if we can't. So if we can get somebody beside her to help her push her in the seat where she's in the seat better, that'd be better, right? We're not going to use her hurt arm, right? If we can guide her to the floor, let her go to the floor, because guess what? When people have an injury like that, passing out is very, very common. So that's probably a good thing, right? And you know what I've done in the past? Somebody can do like she's doing and just get behind with your leg behind her, and she can go ahead and lean against me. And then you can stabilize her and you can hold her up, right, until we get help. Okay, so I'm not the one rendering aid. You guys have a bunch of people and you're rendering aid, so I'm going to help stabilize her and hold her in place. Everybody has a job here, right? So that's the goal. Questions? No questions? Okay, let's go ahead and get her gauze off, get her back in place, and let's meet back at the classroom and we'll go to the next exercise.
We started lying here and we wrapped her up in it.
Okay, so what happened? What do we have?
He busted his head open and he fell.
Okay.
And he has all these bruises on his leg and we wrapped him up.
Okay.
And we delivered the shot from the
We gave 4 sets of CPR.
Okay.
We already did the shock already.
Why did we do that?
He wasn't really responding.
He wasn't responding, so did y'all have a heartbeat?
Mm-hmm.
Yes or no?
No.
No, no heartbeat. Breathing?
very lightly.
Okay. What's our ABCs? Do y'all remember the ABCs? Airway, breathing, circulation, right? So those are the important things. So we start with airway. Is his airway obstructed? Can he breathe, or is there something, so he's in a good position to breathe? Breathing, is his chest moving? Do we hear or feel his breathing?
Stop CPR.
Right? And then in circulation, do we feel a pulse or not? So you guys determined he wasn't breathing, didn't have a pulse. You got an AED, you put it on after doing, you said 3 rounds of CPR? 4 rounds of CPR? And then y'all did the AED, all right?
He's like breathing.
He's breathing. You guys brought him back. Good job. Okay, so what is our priority of care here? If we come in and we have somebody that had maybe a heart attack and fell down, and he also has an injury to his head, what's our most important thing here?
CPR.
Right, the ABCs, right? Make sure that his airway's open, he's got breath, breathing, and circulation. And then we can deal with the bump on the head later on. Let's get that heart pumping first. And then if we have a team of people where we can deal with something, then maybe somebody can go ahead and get the CPR going, and somebody else can apply some pressure to a wound and stop that. But if his heart isn't beating, he's not going to bleed much, right?
Yeah, I know.
So we got to get that heartbeat going first.
We had him. No, you started CPR. Remember when we first got here, right?
Who called 911?
Me.
You did. All right, very good. Very important to make sure we get all the steps covered.
Students, 2 things. He knows what he's talking about. I had a heart attack and he saved me.
You personally do?
He did. He
Some
knows
help.
what he's talking about. Secondly, the only thing I would question on what you did is you raised my head up to put the bandage under it. I would probably have a hecacious neck, maybe
Neck injury,
even
yeah, he
broken.
could have got paralyzed.
Yep.
So you'd have to watch the neck, something terrible.
Yep, indeed. All right, so let's get the room packed back up. Let's get him unwrapped, and then you guys meet. So somebody shot through the window, and
Please help me. Somebody shot through the window. And my friend got shot in the face and arm. What can you do?
Hurry!
Yeah. I got the phone.
Come on, guys, hurry!
We're hoping that the guy doesn't come back, so somebody keep a lookout.
Door, I got 911.
Keep a lookout. I got 911 on the phone.
I have an actual phone. I have an actual phone.
Help me.
Yeah,
Oh.
be careful. Been helping my friend.
Oh.
It was a crazed electrician that came in and shut up the place.
Not my electric.
Oh.
I actually have a phone.
I'm on the phone.
Please help her.
Take the glass out. don't know if we can or not. Can we?
You're doing a great job. Hopefully she'll survive.
Oh, it hurt. Oh.
Can you run this?
Extra one.
No, I don't think you should. Maybe not.
They're going.
Oh, it hurt. Oh.
I think so. Right? I don't know.
What's going on?
She got shot.
She got shot?
And glass key through the window.
Okay, so where's her gunshot wound? Tell me what's going on.
Glass shards in her face.
Did she get shot with a bullet or just the glass? Just the glass. Okay, so tell me what we did. What are we doing here to treat this?
We bandaged it.
I don't know if we could take out the glass or not. But
Okay.
I would have.
That was my question, is why didn't we take out the glass?
Because I didn't.
We don't want
How
to.
about it?
You have gloves on.
Oh, yeah. Also, because.
Okay, so we don't want to cause more injury. So when we have an impalement, right, so we've got anything going into the body, we don't want to take it out for a couple of reasons. So she's got glass. If we try to wiggle it out, we could cut more, right? And what if one of these is close to one of her blood vessels or arteries? Right, we don't want to do that.
Severe blood loss.
That's right, but more importantly, sometimes an impalement can stop the bleeding. So that object that's going into the body is actually plugging the hole. So when you pull that out, like a knife or a screwdriver or anything like that, right? When you pull that out, you create the hole, and now the person's going to bleed more. So we try to stabilize that impalement like y'all did with the gauze.
Until the paramedics.
Until the paramedics get here, right? What other injuries does she have?
On her neck and on her face.
Okay, just the glass injuries? Do we check her for other injuries? Okay, so that'd be a good thing. And why do we have her hand up like this? Is there a reason?
Because she doesn't want to move it.
Okay, because it hurts and she doesn't want to move it, right? But when you're taking charge of the scene, sometimes you're going to have to move somebody into a position that may be a little more painful, but important. We want to keep her hand above her heart. And so we want to raise that hand up, and if we need to, help her stabilize with this hand, or you guys actually, you grab hold of her hand down here and her elbow, and you help stabilize that arm, right? And that way she can relax that muscle, because it's going to get tired holding it up like that so long. But we want to keep an injury that's bleeding a lot higher than the heart. If she was wounded in her leg, what could we do?
Put her hand up.
That's right, so we could maybe lay her on the floor and maybe put her feet in the chair or something, if possible. Making sure that we don't have any other injuries preventing her from being moved, like a neck injury or something that she actually fell. So you want to keep that in consideration. But holding that wound up high, applying pressure to the wound, right? And then what if that was bleeding super bad? What could we do on her hand? Let's say that it actually cut one of her major blood vessels in her wrist or hand, and she's bleeding really bad. What else would we do?
Put a gauze in there.
Put more gauze in her, stuff the wound is what you're saying? We could. What else?
Put pressure on it.
Put pressure on it, right? How hard?
Very
Very hard. As hard as it takes to stop that bleeding. Tourniquet? We don't have a tourniquet. What could we use?
Sticks in the cost.
That's right. Anything. How about your lanyard? Right? You have stuff everywhere. Your shoelace,
A
your
belt.
belt. What about cables? A mouse cord, right? You grab that mouse off of the computer. Anything in an emergency can be used as a tourniquet to help that. And then you use, like you said, a pin or something to put it in and twist it and make it tight. All right, questions? Okay, let's go ahead and get the gauze off and everything repackaged over here for the next class. Gunshot, so if we could, we're going to get away from that area and watch it. All right.
My gosh, well, you don't want to get an infection on that bone, so you're going to use the cleanest thing you've got. If you're out in the field and it's a car wreck, you may not have anything sterile. And that's why I said you may want to look and see what's in their vehicle even that you can use. So you've got to be
Police.
around.
Somebody call police? Who called police? What's happening?
She spilled her coffee on her and she has a secondary burn. He had a peanut allergy, so we gave him an EpiPen and he was much better now. We applied a wet paper towel to her burns, so we were able to cool off and wrap it in gauze.
And you wrapped it in gauze? Okay, very good. Who did the EpiPen? All right, tell me about how you applied the EpiPen.
So, he was, well, he,
How many did we deliver?
just one.
Okay, I see two. I want to make sure. So we delivered one. Right? Is that important to tell paramedics when we
Yes.
right? Where did you apply it?
I applied it on the leg and it looks a lot better now.
Okay. How did you apply it? What did you do?
They had to calm me down enough to get a shot, so I didn't want to get one.
Right. Okay. How long did you hold it on there for?
3 seconds.
And then what did you do?
I took it out.
Okay. Did you rub the muscle to rub it in? Remember to rub the muscle after you do that to make sure that you can rub that medicine in through the muscle, right? Okay. That's not a major thing. Just remember to do that. With the burn, who's more important here? When we had the triage, did you guys treat all one person, or did y'all split into teams, or what?
We split into
Me and him kind of tried to help him heal him first. And then he kind of quickly grabbed.
Okay, so if you were by yourself and you had to decide which one of these two people I'm going to treat, who's more at risk? He is, because she's hurting, but he's dying, right? He can't breathe, so that's right. You had a triage to decide who's going to need the help the most, and that's him. For her, you did a great job by getting it wet, try to cool the wound down because it can continue to burn, right? What else could we have done? Could we put it under the faucet with clean water and let the water run over it?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to do on a burn. Do we want to wrap a burn?
Not really, because it'll pull up.
No. Right, so with a burn, if you wrap it, like with these gauze and stuff, what's going to happen is that's going to stick to the gauze, and when they get to the hospital and they start to try to take that off, you can actually cause the skin to come off. So we don't want to wrap a burn if we can help it. You did good by getting a napkin and patting it, but not letting it stick in anything. Don't wrap. If you were able to have a first aid kit that had maybe some non-stick pads, could you use that over the burn? You could, and then cover it. What else could you do? You're in a kitchen. What could we use to improvise if we don't have a first aid kit? What's here that we could use?
Towels,
paper towels,
saran wrap.
Saran wrap. That's what I was looking for. Paper towels is great. Napkins are great. But you could actually wrap it in a saran wrap if you need to, because it's not going to allow the wound to stick to that, right? And so that could be an option if you need to wrap it. What if this burn wasn't only a burn, but she also had something stuck in her hand? Like, what's more important there?
Not to pull it out because it might bleed.
That's correct. So then how do we stop that?
We like add we add pressure, right? Like we
Yep.
wrap around it,
Yep.
keep it in place.
You're right. So if I have to choose between not wrapping it because it's a burn or putting a wrap on it to stabilize whatever is inside that wound, it's probably better to stabilize. If she had a knife sticking through her hand, yes. Yep, you're going to put a gauze on each side like you talked about and stabilize it. And then if we have to deal with the skin, we will. But we don't want that to move and cause more damage, okay? Questions, guys?
No, sir.
Okay, great job. Package up everything and then head back to the classroom for me.
Not this time.
No? Nobody called for help?
No, truth is, no one actually did that this time.
Okay, so tell me, what do we do?
Alright.
What's happening?
We wrapped the gauze around. We can't actually do it because the makeup would come off. But then we put on one of these to stabilize the arm and keep it bent.
What is that?
So that
I found it in the corner of the room. I didn't really know what it was. Like, well, we used it.
It's a workout strap that you improvise. Okay, great job. Now what else are we doing? So you said you would have wrapped it in gauze, you just didn't because of the makeup. Okay, so what do we have here? Tell me what's happening. With the bones down, she's more likely to pass out and stuff too, right? So if she does pass out, what do we do?
We already have her right there, so she doesn't fall and get more hurt.
That's right. If she passes out, we'll help lay her down and everything. Then we can elevate her legs because we want the blood to come back up to the top of her body, right? And then we'll be good. But stabilize that wound like you guys did. So improvise. I like that. You did a good job on improvising. Okay. Any other things that you guys might consider with a wound like this?
Not to move it.
What if it's bleeding incredibly bad? What might we need to do?
Make a makeshift tourniquet, possibly.
Make a tourniquet, right? So you could use the same strap or whatever you have available to make a makeshift tourniquet. If you
I didn't know it was allergic.
Oh, God, dude.
Oh, and I burned my
And then this.
I don't want a shot! I don't want a shot! I don't want
And then here. And then like.
Help me. It
Okay, that's better.
burns, it
Okay, I'm good now.
burns.
I'm good,
Don't
I'm good.
pour water on me because it'll wash it all off with the next one. What are you gonna do? You're, okay. Do you have any supplies or anything? What are you gonna use?
We're good.
Okay?
So, okay.